this was heritage, but this is also for Ukraine. Who thought it? Anyway.
Welcome to this time of worship. Whether you are here in person or virtually, we are all gathered with the Divine Spirit, seeking comfort and courage. This is a time for recentering ourselves to find spiritual nourishment in a hurting world, a time to refresh and renew our relationships with one another, with God. Please let us center ourselves with our prelude.
Good morning, everybody.
A triple once, which I've done this year already. Okay. Here's the word statement. Welcome to Old South Church, United Church of Christ. Welcome to believers, questioners, and to questioning believers. We gather in the hope of creating a safe space where you're free to explain your authentic self. No matter how you identify or express your race, gender, or sexuality, you are welcome here. For this is God's house, and God welcomes all ages, colors, cultures, gifts, and abilities. Your presence here is a gift that challenges us to open our doors as wide as God's welcome. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome by God who made you and loves you just the way you are, and loves you enough to challenge you to keep growing toward that person God made you to be. That together we may choose love and seek justice for all.
Lent is a time for taking stock, for setting our aims for following God. Lent is an opportunity for healthy repentance, for our inaction in the face of evildoers in the world, for personal missteps which have glossed over. Lent is also a time for joy, for turning our face to the light that shines on the path of the divine, to enjoying small victories day by day. May we know your ways, O God, for you are the God of our renewal and true contentment. Come, let us worship together. Please read responsively with me. We come before God, who is full of compassion, who asks forgiveness and mercy, when in our excesses we consume more than our share, while others go without basic needs. When we are blinded by our affluence and fail to reach out in care and concern. When we are overwhelmed by the desire to acquire, consume more than we need. Possessions cloud our view of you and your gracious love. In this place we find God's word, God's way, God's love, and God's forgiveness. What more do we need to sustain us? God's hope, God's mercy, God's joy. Thanks be to God. We are forgiven and loved and supported on this journey of faith. Amen. A moment for our witness for justice.
All for being here today, and it's a blessed morning, maybe not rainy. April shower, and I'm Karen Malloy, and I can tell you, I'm such a passion for this. I am a physician by training, and I teach at the Case Western Medical School, and the issues about climate change are things that we're teaching the medical students, and I'm also part of a collaborative with the healthcare institutions within Cleveland and the Northeast Ohio, Cleveland Clinic, UH, Metro, and the VA Hospital to teach the doctors about the issues about climate change and how to take care of patients when we find the issues that are related to that. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. The things that we've now found with scientific understanding about the effects it's going to have on the human population. There's things we teach, and it's about the social determinants of health. These are conditions where people are born, live, work, play, worship, and age, affect a wide range of health issues and quality of life. And climate change is that part of that social determinants of health that affect things like clean air, safe drinking water, sufficient food, and secure shelter. So let's take some of the effects that we see with climate change and related to health. So extreme weather, obviously things like heavy rainfall and flooding increase waterborne diseases, including houses that lead to increase in asthma and respiratory symptoms. The effects of temperature extremes have been well documented with heat waves, which cause more deaths, hospital admission, and harmful algae blooms. Increased heat, drought, and wildfires have also been linked to poor air quality, more air pollution, which have a negative effect on human health. And I know that you think about kind of air quality, thinking about with respiratory, but it also affects cardiac. And the most recent research that it also affects metabolic diseases such as diabetes. Now, I know you all think it's just genetic and I ate too many donuts and that's why I have adult diabetes, but we're now seeing the links and I won't go down the whole pathophysiology pathway of why that's true, but it is of concern to us about air pollution. The effects of increased temperatures and greenhouse gases has shifted flowering time and pollen initiation, and increase in production of plant allergens and longer pollen seasons, so think ragweed. And heat and droughts have also affected agriculture production and really affect food supplies across the world and really lead to more problems of increase in climate refugees. And that was the whole part of actually big drought in Syria and then that kind of got morphed into war with the Syrian refugees. Climate is one of the factors that influences the range of mosquitoes and ticks that carry diseases. Reported cases of vector-borne diseases in the United States have more than tripled since 2004. So think things like Zika and dengue. Those are tropical diseases we should not see in the Northern Hemisphere, but we are. And the wild spread of West Nile virus and Lyme disease, and even places like Canada, which never had those before. And all of these stressors in climate change have really been shown not only to affect physical health, but mental health as well. But you know, not everyone is equally at risk, and the health risks of climate change are especially high for people who are less able to cope because of things like age or income or social connectivity or underlying diseases that make them more vulnerable. And so this includes a wide range of populations, people with low income, or communities of color, immigrant groups, indigenous peoples, children, pregnant women, people with pre-existing and underlying conditions, people with disabilities. And, climate change can make those vulnerabilities worse. And we really always talk about that as a health equity issue, thinking about who do we need to be thinking about, who do we need to connect with. For example, many native Alaskan communities are being affected by loss of ice pack, melting permafrost, and sea level rise. In one community, the name is Shishmaref, is located just a little bit south of the Arctic Circle, and their houses are sinking and being swept away during storms, and that forced the relocation of the entire community. And we're talking about communities that have been there for thousands of years. The higher ground temperatures continue to alter migration patterns of the caribou, which is a local food source, and limit vegetation that the animals eat, so it really affects the whole ecosystem. And then the problem is that ice forms late, remains thin, and breaks apart easily, and so things like hunting walrus and seals has become dangerous for them to be able to do, so now all of a sudden they don't have their own food source to be able to adapt to. So, the UCC's Environmental Justice Ministries has stated, quote, "The urgency of climate crisis requires that we act as if our cathedrals and churches were on fire. God's creation can be seen as one grand cathedral on fire with burning forests and rising temperatures." So, join us next week, and we'll talk about some solutions and what we can do as church members. Thank you.
Today we will hear from the Gospel of Luke. In this reading, while Jesus was teaching at the synagogue on the Sabbath, a woman appears. I'm sorry, I forgot the hymn. Let's do that. Please be seated. Take two. I rearranged the order of worship. I can't follow my own instructions, however. Okay. Today we will again hear from the Gospel of Luke. And in this reading, Jesus is teaching at the synagogue on the Sabbath, and a woman appears who has been crippled for 18 years. Apparently, her condition is more than just physical. The reading speaks about a spirit that has crippled her. If you listen to this passage, consider something that is holding you back or keeping you from moving to something new. Be open to hearing God say to you, you are set free from your ailment. Barb.
This is Luke 13, 10 through 17. Now he was teaching in one of the synagogues on the Sabbath, and just then there appeared a woman with a spirit that had crippled her for 18 years. She was bent over, and she was quite unable to stand up straight. When Jesus saw her, he called her over and said, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." When he laid his hands on her, immediately she stood up straight and began praising God. But the leader of the synagogue, indignant because Jesus cured on the Sabbath, kept saying to the crowd, "There are 6 days in which work ought to be done. Come on those days and be cured, and not on the Sabbath day." But the Lord answered him and said, "You hypocrites, does not each of you on the Sabbath untie his ox or donkey from the manger and lead it away to give it water? And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham, whom Satan bound for 18 long years, be set free from this bondage on the Sabbath day?" When he said this, all the opponents were put to shame, and the entire crowd was rejoicing at all the wonderful things that he was doing. May we hear God's message in this reading. Amen.
I'm going to share just a few thoughts on this passage with you today. And I encourage you to read it again this week and see what message God may be offering you in this story. There are two primary events. First, the healing, and second, the interactions with the religious leaders who criticized Jesus for healing on the Sabbath. My first question is, so healing was so commonplace that the only surprise about this was that it happened on the Sabbath. Stories of Jesus healing and message was common in Luke's time. And Luke recognized and realized that he was continuing to persuade people that Jesus was indeed the Messiah. So he wanted to tie the common stories of the healing to the Sabbath because he wanted to show that Jesus' authority was greater than the religious leaders of the time. But I want to focus more on the first part because I only have about a minute. People in both Jesus and Luke's time knew that one's inner life can affect one's outer condition. We likewise have emotional and mental health concerns that affect our physical health. During this time of Lent, we have been attempting to take stock of our errors, our missteps, our mistakes, and ways that have harmed others. Those words or deeds which have caused this harm most likely are actions or words that came from a place within us. It's healing. In this way, we can hear Jesus' words in this passage in a personal way. We take missteps and make mistakes, most often because we are off balance, either with something temporary like anger or exhaustion, or something more long-standing like mental health or control issues or low self-esteem. This week, ask yourself, what within me needs to be healed? What within me needs to be set free? Because when we are released from our baggage or illness, we can be better toward others. Take an honest look and search to find the thing that ails you. Know that God offers you healing. The woman in the story is free of her ailment to live her life more fully. Know that you need to be healed, We all do. Know that you have probably said or done something harmful to at some point in your life to someone. We all have. Know that God has already forgiven you. Forgive yourself. Ask the person you harmed for forgiveness if that is possible. This week, pray for healing for yourself and for others. And hear God this week say to you, you are free of your ailment. Amen. Today we have some guests that are going to be sharing with us. Alicia? Ah, dang, I did it wrong anyway. I wrote it down phonetically and I still did it wrong. And Lee, and they're both from the U.S. Together that we so generously supported for and refugees, and so I'm going to turn it over to them to share with you more about the work they do.
I think this is working perfect.
All right.
Where should I stand? Okay. Hi, my name is Lee Colmer II. I am with Us Together Cleveland.
Can we take that time? You guys want to move? I'm sorry, I didn't do this in advance. Sorry, I can't see the screen. I'm sorry. I didn't think of that before.
So, Us Together, are we? I'm going to explain a little bit about who we are, what we do, what's going on, and how everybody can get involved a little bit more than you already have, so thank you for that. Us Together, our mission is to coordinate, organize, and initiate services to immigrants and refugees through education, advocacy, support services, information, referrals, networking opportunities in order to strengthen the community that we live in. And Us Together, were actually founded back in 2003. We were founded by two women who fled from the Soviet Union, or the former Soviet Union, and came here to Ohio. And back in 2003, they wanted to make a response to the growing needs of refugees here in central Ohio, around the Columbus area, a lot dealing with Eastern European populations, but that expanded over time. And we are actually a mutual assistance agency, which means that we started and are still managed by former refugees. And even though we began resettling diverse refugee populations in 2005 in Columbus, we expanded over time in 2007 with our second office here in Cleveland, Ohio. And we also have expanded to Toledo in 2013. And from the time that we started working with refugees of Eastern European countries, we've expanded to all over the world, and we'll get into some of those here in a moment. But first, we want to go over some of the differences between immigrants, refugees, asylees, and parolees. A lot of these can seem very, very similar, but they have differences that make significant impacts on who can come and why they can. So first, we always, a lot of us are familiar with this term, which is immigrant. And this is used in the law to describe an individual who seeks and resides permanently in the U.S. This term is used interchangeably with lawfully permanent resident, or LPR. And under the U.S. immigration law, an individual may qualify for permanent residency based on their relationship with a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, if they have an offer of employment, if they have an investment of a sum of money in the U.S. in a business, or they're in participation of a diversity visa lottery, which is basically the amount of refugees that we allow throughout the world. We pick different ones, and it's basically not everyone can get in, but we try to choose equitably. Another term that is very popular is refugee, and a refugee is simply someone who is owing to well-founded fear of being persecuted for reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group, which can include LGBTQT or a social networking group, political opinion, and someone who is outside the country of his or her nationality is unable to or owing to such a fear is unwilling to return or rely on the protection of that country. So they're not able to be safely in their home, so they need to leave, whether they believe that is a fear or it is a direct fear right there. Another common term that we've been dealing with a lot more are asylees. Asylees are physically present in the U.S. and they are seeking admission at a port of entry. So we have these down in Mexico at different ports where people come to, are filed in, and taken through the system. These people are afraid to return to their native land because of their past persecution, which is also well-founded fear based on things of religion, nationality, political opinion, race, or membership to a social group. So they are afraid, and they are coming here to one of the designated ports that we have established. And parolees are what we are dealing with Afghanistan. And this is a different term than the other ones because these are individuals who are not eligible to come to the U.S. as a refugee, immigrant, or non-immigrant. These people can only be paroled into the United States by the Attorney General when the number of refugees allowed to enter has been exceeded. And this is a temporary thing. So what we've seen with Afghanistan is all these Afghans were admitted for a temporary time here in the U.S., which can extend as the situation continues on, but it is a temporary thing. It's not permanent. And here are some of the refugee stats we're going to go over just so people have an idea of how prevalent this problem is in the world. So the level of refugee migration around the world is at the highest level since World War II. 84 million people are forcibly displaced worldwide, and 26.4 million of these people are under the age of 18. So young kids just trying to live their lives being torn from their home. 48 million of these people are internally displaced. So in some part of their country, there's a lot of instability, danger, so they may move to a western part of the country where it's more safe, being still in the country. 4.4 million of these people are asylum seekers, and refugees can spend years in refugee camps. Some of them can last a few months, few years, some of them have gone over 20 years. So it really is a case-by-case basis. And a lot of what deals with this is the presidential determination. And over the years, from the last administration to the present one, we've seen a big change in that. And what this is each fiscal year, the administration must set a refugee admission ceiling, which is a presidential determination. And this admission is required to consult with Congress before setting it. But this is how many people we will allow in the country. So in 2018, that was 5,000. 2019, it was 30,000. Only 25,000 refugees were resettled. And we start seeing that jumping up in 21, where there's 15,000, or it didn't jump up then. That was last year with the former administration. But now that we have the new administration, we have seen that jump back to what it was formerly, or even a little bit greater than. We are now at 125,000. We haven't hit that mark yet, but the U.S. is still continuing to have these people come in through the United States. And with that, we are looking towards the future of refugee resettlement. So with the Trump administration, It nearly decimated all of the refugee agencies throughout the country. We were not prepared to handle the amount that we had at the point in time that we are facing right now. And refugee admissions was always a bipartisan issue, it was turned into a bipartisan issue when it has always been a nonpartisan issue, surprisingly. It was founded in 1980 by Ronald Reagan, trying to deal with the refugee crisis happening right then with Vietnam. And so this has been a nonpartisan issue. Just recently it has turned into a more partisan issue. We see that it has been raised to 125,000 refugees being admitted here in the U.S., and we are working to rebuild this capacity. Us right now, we've been working really hard dealing with Afghan people coming over, trying to build up our capacity, hiring new people in so we can give them more services that will go over what we provide them. But just a brief chart to show you kind of the flow and web of who works with the refugees and how they come to the U.S. First, they're going to start out with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. They are going to grant their status and run the refugee camps worldwide. And those go through the 7 foreign ministries, which include FBI, Homeland Security, as well as other ones. They are going to go through their security clearings, or screenings, and the refugees are going to be assigned to a voluntary agency. And so for us together, we are HIAS, which is the Hebrew Immigration Aid Society. We were founded originally to help Jewish people escape in Europe, but after seeing the growing need of all their other neighbors fleeing like they did before, they wanted to expand their services to other people. So underneath all these refugee agencies, the agencies are organizations like us, resettlement agencies like us together. There may be other ones that you've heard about here in the Cleveland or greater Cleveland area. We try to work all coordinated together to make sure we can do the best job for everybody, provide as many services and make the connections that we can, because these connections really build the community and find all the things that are missing. After that, the resettlement agency, we're going to assist with integrating them into the United States, making sure that they have a place to live, they have a job placement, their kids are in school, they are seeing doctors. And this kind of goes over our 90 days when they first arrive. So we are going to make sure that we process them. We pick them up at the airport, make sure that they have a culturally appropriate hot meal, so that way they feel welcome when they come here. We get them the housing, we refer them to the public benefits, get them cultural orientation, so that way they know how to use the buses, the supermarkets, know what to expect with schools and different things like that. And then we move on after the 90 days, helping with entrepreneurial services, parent education, financial literacy workshops, and just life skill programs that are going to help them thrive in these communities that we're setting up. And as you can see from this chart, we do work with refugees from all over the world, so Burundi, Burma, Vietnam, but the 4 main countries that we are working with right now in the past few years we've seen the majority come from are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ukraine, Syria, and Afghanistan. Really briefly, we're going to go over what's going on in those countries and we've seen an influx. So Afghanistan has faced conflict for the past 40 years, beginning in 1979, following the Soviet invasion and installment of the Soviet-backed ruler, Kemal. And even with this past 40 years of fighting, Afghanistan has seen decades and centuries of fighting and instability, for them being on the Silk Road and the Merchant Road, always being a very important geographic location for people to go through. So that causes a lot of infighting because it's such a valuable resource. And when the Soviets withdrew from Afghanistan after the 1988 Geneva Peace Accords, there was civil war that took place until the Taliban took over Kabul in 1996. We all remember in 2001 where U.S. invaded Afghanistan in reaction to the 9/11 attacks. But with the news recently, we have seen in April that Biden announced he was going to withdraw the remaining troops out of Afghanistan. And with that, the Taliban recaptured Kabul in August of 2021. And there are currently 3.5 million internally displaced people in Afghanistan, including over 500,000 forced to flee since the beginning of 21. And looking at the country, you can see how people can still be within the country, but maybe not near where the direct fighting is happening. In Ukraine, we've had a lot of developments in the news recently, but kind of a historical overview. The Lauenburg Amendment was created in 1990, which gave them refugee status and eventually citizenship to religious minorities in Ukraine. So these were Jewish people within Ukraine that were being persecuted and looking to seek safety as refugees. And they were considered to have a well-founded persecution and a close family here in America, which is why they came over. More than 4,000 Ukrainian refugees came over to the U.S. in 2017. And some of you may know this, but actually Parma is the second largest Ukrainian population in the world outside of Ukraine. So that's pretty great. It's pretty awesome to see such a big community. They have some delicious shops over there you should check out. But we also have other countries that we're dealing with the Democratic Republic of Congo, had more families coming there, which dates back to the Rwandan genocide, where the rebels from Rwanda fled into the Congo and sparked two back-to-back wars. The president maintained power by force and refused to host fair elections until January 2019. There's still a lot of internal conflict there. And as you can see, there are a host of countries that resettle refugees. The United States is not alone in their endeavors. That's why right now with Ukraine, we see a lot of people going to other countries. And with this, refugees are facing incredible issues and obstacles coming from the countries to what they can call home. And a lot of this is dealing with trauma. The trauma of being all the violence caused there, the displacement, losing friends and families, being separated from their family on top of the persecution and extreme poverty that can be intertwined with these situations, can give a lot of people trauma before they even migrate or leave their area. But even when they do leave somewhere, changing family dynamics, having a weakened social network, a little distrust of the area and what's going on, can give a lot of person trauma even as they are trying to integrate here within our society, which is linked to depression, PTSD, higher suicide rate, and survivor's guilt, feeling like you left someone behind that's still in Afghanistan and dealing with the problems, or other countries. And there also is a big cultural shock due to a variety of reasons. I think anyone who doesn't live in Cleveland, if they try to learn the bus system, is going to have a hard time. Imagine if you can't even read the paper. So there is a big culture shock coming to here, so that's why we want to integrate them into a new community while also honoring their old traditions and cultures as well. Oops, I did not mean to do that. So we have a lot of different programs, and I'm just going to go over the major one and tell you a little bit about that. RNP is reception and placement, and this is supplying people with assistance one time. With that, we do a lot of different things, but with the main expenses, during the first 3 months in the US, we give $1,225 per person for the entire RNP period. Most of these funds are going to go towards rent, furnishings, food, and clothes. And other services we provide with this are going to be school enrollment or other referrals to other long-term assistant programs. So connecting with all the different agencies within Cuyahoga County, trying to connect them. We do a lot of different things with employment services, making sure that they have their background checks, they are prepared with their resumes, we have clothes that they are fitting for the job, or safety boots, different things like that. We do ESL, which is English as a second language, making sure that they have financial literacy classes, so when they do get this money, they can make it sustainable for them and their families. We have micro-enterprise development, which is really focused on entrepreneurship within these refugees coming over. A lot of them, they were living amazing lives beforehand, or were very creative, very artistic, and we want to keep that spirit of entrepreneurship going. We see with the refugees, they actually have a higher rate of starting their own businesses than Americans. And some of these programs can be, we have Mohammed, who is making bracelets, different beads and things like that that people can wear. We have people who have bakeries, photography businesses, acting, wrestling? Restaurants, yes, restaurants. I was like, wrestling? Ooh, okay. Need to find out about that. But we really try to give them the technical training and assistance so they can really thrive and put their passion to the test. We get them to apply for microloans, credit building, everything that they could need. We are working on youth development, so making sure that their kids are going to schools. We are sending them to Thomas Jefferson Newcomers Academy, also known as the International Newcomers Academy, where they have lunch and learn. It's a great time for them to communicate with other people in a fun setting. We have individual mentoring for immigrant and refugee youth. People can remotely mentor them or in-person mentor them as well. We work with preferred communities, and these are people that have been in the U.S. for less than 5 years and aren't a citizen yet, but they need extensive case management, which means that they need that because they have a few different barriers of self-sufficiency. So that could include physical conditions, elderly clients, LGBTQ clients as well, people that will have a harder time, so we can extend the 90 days and give them more assistance so that way they aren't fallen. We always provide interpreter services. There are over 70 languages spoken. We have a network of over 250 interpreters, which is great to be able to communicate to the people. And we have a lot of different ways to get involved. So as you all know, you've already got involved as well, and you've let us come and speak with you, so thank you so much for bringing us both here. And we have a lot of different other ways that you can help out, depending on what is your cup of tea. We have opportunities for people to set up new homes for the newly arriving refugees. So this includes, you can go shopping for household items, different decorations, or things that are essential for their household setup kit. Making sure that they are set up in their home with everything that they need. You can also decorate the house with us or collect donated items. We're on a donation drive yourself and either get food, clothes, school supplies, whatever you think would be most useful for them or that you would like to gather. You could also be a community navigator, so something that can help them figure out when to go to the grocery store, what you can spend your money on, figuring out the bus routes, where to send your kids at this different time, everything like that. They can understand how to use the bank, just showing them the community a little bit. You can also provide them transportation. We can teach them the transit system, but there are different times where they need to go to a doctor, or recently we had a Garment Revolution at the Community Life Collaborative. We needed drivers to pick up families to take them to the church so that they could pick out new clothing for themselves and all of that. So it's helping them since they don't have a driver's license or a car at the moment. And we need people to help them with their English skills. So surprisingly, some of them can speak decent English. Some of the kids speak it pretty well, but their itching to get better at it. They want to learn more. They want to work on their communicative skills. So they just need a conversation buddy to help them out with. Also looking for anyone who is certified as an ESL teacher. We'd love to get more of those classes going as well. As well, we love donations. It does take a community to help out all the refugees, which includes furniture, anybody who has dining room tables, couches, dressers, things that can be provided for there. All the appliances, laptops, phones, vacuums, microwaves, sewing machines, bicycles for the kids. Also, grocery and gift cards to Walmart are very helpful, so that either shoppers like yourself can go out and get the stuff for them, or that we could give the gift card to them and they can go get their own needs or groceries, what have you. We also love people to advocate for refugees, so just like how you spread your word, we have to spread ours and let people know what's going on, how they can get involved. So you can always email our development specialist, Liv Randall. We can send that information to you so you can send it out to other people. Join our emailing list so we can stay up to date on everything that Us Together is doing, the current status of everything going on in the world. You can learn about the refugees and their experiences so you can advocate and educate others on their behalf. They are a lot like us. The more we get to know them, the better we can advocate for them. And we'd love for you always to get part in action items that we share on social media. So we do have different petition signature collection and calls for local and state government action, calling senators or writing to President Biden, sometimes dealing with the amount of time that refugees or parolees can stay here in the U.S., granting different populations that status so they can be protected. And if there is any other ways that you would like to get involved that you can think of, we're always open to thoughtful ideas. We love community sponsorships. We've been working with different churches to try to have them sponsor a family, so they'll get the whole house setup kit for maybe a 6 or 7 person family, get them the food, the clothes, and just everything that that family could need and be their support system. Someone that they can go to if they need something additional or have questions or need navigating or just a friend. But if you have any more questions, we love to answer them. We love to get people involved. Feel free to ask me or Alicia. We will be over there near coffee and tea. So ask us some questions, see how you can get involved. Thank you so much for inviting us here, and I hope you all have a blessed day after this.
Which reminds us, today we have coffee and tea for the first time in 2 years. Woo! And they will be available to answer questions. We come to a time where we're sharing our joys and our concerns.
I have several. First of all, we're asking for safe travel and return of the Kalina family who are traveling to Disney World to cheer on Haley as she marches with the North High School marching band, and for all the band and choir members as well. Also prayers for Dave Kalina, who is having his third back surgery Tuesday, the 29th.
Oh, goodness.
Which is expected to be more painful as they go through his back muscle. So prayers for patience, relief, and more patience. Also prayers for Karen Smith, who has extreme undiagnosed pain in her back and is not feeling well today.
Thank you.
I was just going to add to that real quick that Jackson made a special effort to be here this morning to help us with the tech side of things. They're leaving this afternoon, and Emily said, well, we don't need Jackson to pack. So also Granddad brought Jackson, so thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Jackson.
Yes.
I have thanks and a joy for Steve Winkler and Chuck Haas going up on the roof yesterday to hopefully fix the drip that's been in the closet.
Yay. Okay, great. Let us gather those things which were shared aloud and those things which we have kept in our hearts. Let us take a few moments and give our attention to the holy mystery that dwells within us. First with a song and then with a moment of holy stillness. Please remain seated. From Psalm 145. The Lord upholds all those who fall and lifts up all who are bowed down. God of love, hear the cry of those who yearn for love, fractured families, broken homes, neglected, unwanted, alone. God of love, God of justice, hear the cry of those who yearn for justice, persecuted and oppressed, exploited, ill-treated, broken. God of justice, God of peace, hear the cry of those who yearn for peace. In battle zones and broken countries, frightened, fearful, anxious, God of peace, God of healing, hear the cry of those who yearn for healing, physical and spiritual, hurting, weakened, depressed. God of healing, God of mercy, hear the cry of those who yearn for mercy, convicted, in those in need of your grace, contrite, humble, bowed down. God of mercy, hear our prayer. From Psalm 116. I love the Lord, for the Lord heard my voice, heard my cry for mercy, and turned near to me. I will call on the Lord as long as I live. May you know the peace of God, the love of God, the justice of God, the healing and mercy of God, this day and all days. Let us always remember the comfort and challenge brought to us by Jesus, the teacher, prophet, guide, and healer who taught us to pray together, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. We come to a moment of gratitude for our many blessings, for this community of faith, for God's movement in our lives. We respond to these great gifts by sharing a portion of our time and talent and treasure with others. May the gifts received by this community of faith be used with wisdom and compassion. And thank you for all you do. us pray. Eternal Creator, you have been good beyond all deserving. You have surrounded us with your love and care, with the beauty of our world, with the support of friends. You have placed hope in our hearts. In return for your generous gifts, help us to respond with love and joy, and to give with an open heart and mind, so that your compassion may be shown to others. Amen. We have announcements this morning.
Sorry about that. Okay, so today is the last day for nominations for search committee. Thank you, those of you who have come in last week. I appreciate it. The cabinet will be appreciating it next week. There are forms in the back at the side door and coffee hour, and you do not need to sign your name if you prefer to remain discreet. If you know who the beautiful yellow and blue vest on the altar belongs to, please let them know. And don't forget to sign up for prayer vigil for Good Friday, and the sign-up sheet is on the bulletin board near the anchor lamp room. If you have questions, please see me. My name is Deb Sherm, and also be thinking about possibly inviting members of your family or friends who will be looking for a spiritual moment during that time. It's actually a very beautiful thing, and you may want to share it.
Thank you.
Before the history wall goes down, putting pastors on it. You might be surprised, if you look in the 1920s, how many people we had here. To honor those people, we are going to do a project. We're doing a project. We're going to be able to put up names and dates that the pastors were here at the church from 1819 onward.
Yes. Thank you.
There's going to be a women's fellowship meeting on Tuesday at 1 o'clock in the Anchor Lamp Room, so all the ladies of the church are invited, and we would love to have you join us.
Wonderful. Okay. Today after church, the care teams are having after fellowship, the care teams are having a extended reading time today. Today at 4:30 is the kids' reading time Zoom. At 5 o'clock again is our social hour. Please join us. And I shared something in the Heavenly Herald this week that I also wanted to highlight, especially for those of you who are interested in trying something new on your spiritual journey. Both on Facebook and on Zoom every morning, Monday through Friday, is a Taizé service offered by the Open and Affirming Coalition of the United Church of Christ. And you can just observe and listen and pray and chant privately, but along with them. So I encourage you to give it a try. It's very great practice for you spiritually to have something you do on a regular basis. Next Sunday after church, we'll have the Witness and Justice gathering for a more in-depth conversation on our topic. Any other announcements? Wonderful. Let us stand for our closing hymn. This is your faith community, one of compassion and welcome, one of work and play, one of support and challenge. Let us be the church together, and I ask you again today, before you leave, to talk to someone you don't normally talk to, someone you might not know well. Let us get to know the people of faith on this journey with us. Go forth from this place, holding on to God's love for you, remembering to offer patience and kindness to all you meet. Let the Spirit guide your steps, and may we always live with hope, peace, joy, love, and seek justice. Amen.